Even though I have a good recollection of some of the aliens I created as a kid, there are many designs that I only drew once or twice and completely forgot about. Unlike my previous two videos on Croakic and Geminite, today I will be discussing not just one but 3 different designs that I created. I will also show you the original drawings of these designs which I found recently, and to make this video extra special for Halloween, I decided to only choose the designs that vaguely resemble different monsters and cryptids. Other aspects of the designs in this video that I will be making different than the previous two is that instead of being in the UAF art style, I'm trying to do them in the original art style, so 2005 Ben 10. This is just to make it clear that they're not meant to be in the same Omnitrix lineup and to show that they're going to be slightly different than the original two. Now if that's clear and we're all caught up, let's dive into the first alien design. Okay, so seeing this for the first time in I don't know how many years, from what I can tell, it's meant to be some sort of phantom floating around with a wispy head and scars on its body. Not much going on, it's a pretty basic, edgy design, but it does remind me of shadow people. For those who don't know, shadow people are shadowy figures that people always seem to see in the corners of their eyes, and they disappear as soon as you notice them. No one really knows what they are and what their intentions are, other than they don't like being seen. A more well-known type of shadow person is the Hat Man, who's more associated with drug-induced hallucinations and sleep paralysis, rather than the majority of shadow people. I decided to give this alien the power of teleportation and intangibility. It can vanish in a puff of smoke and reappear behind enemies for combat, or sneak into wherever it needs to be, similar to Nightcrawler from the X-Men movies. In terms of design, it's a very malnourished looking humanoid figure with wispy patches on its body and some purple accents to make the design stand out from all the dark grays. The Omnitrix stays on its wrists, like in the original design, but I placed it on top of a glove since many aliens in the original series have some sort of clothing or armor where the Omnitrix is attached. With all that said, let me introduce you to our first Halloween alien, Nightshade. The next design I found looks like a cross between a werewolf and a rhino. To my knowledge, there isn't any cryptid that's a rhino wolf, and Ben 10 already has a werewolf alien. But then I immediately thought about another dog-like monster with spikes on its back, the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra actually looks different depending on where it's found. In some countries it's described as a reptilian-looking vampire with large alien eyes and spikes running down its back, while in others it's described more as looking like a hairless dog and a kangaroo mixed together. But what exactly is it? Well, the name Chupacabra actually translates to goatsucker, because the majority of Chupacabra sightings are connected to a string of dead farm animals, drained of all their blood, meaning the Chupacabra most likely drank it. However, the most interesting thing about the Chupacabra is that people have actually found and caught these little vampires alive. Well, sort of. It turns out that many Chupacabra sightings are actually just coyotes that suffer from a disease called mange, which causes them to lose most of their hair and develop a rough, almost reptile-looking skin. Given all that, I decided to add more spikes along its back instead of just keeping the horns in the front, and make it bald with some fur around the ears. This way I can make the design look like a mix of all the different descriptions of the Chupacabras and the werewolf-rhino hybrid alien I made as a kid. For powers, it's going to have the generic enhanced speed, strength, and agility, similar to Wildmutt, but I also gave it sharper claws and the ability to ram into enemies and obstacles like a rhino. With that said, I present to you Wreck-a-Cabra. Now for the third and final design, I wanted to revisit this squid-like alien with an anchor-shaped head and clawed tentacles. It's pretty simple to say we can turn it into a kraken alien. Most of you probably already know what a kraken is, but for those who don't, a kraken is a giant squid monster that was blamed for a lot of sunken ships between the 1100s and the 1700s. Now before anyone comments about the kraken with 2 Ks, shown in the original series, it's not an alien Ben can transform into, and it looks more like Ribjaws as a kaiju than an actual kraken. Unlike the majority of popular cryptids and monsters, the kraken turns out to be a real animal. And I don't mean it in the same way that the Chupacabra is a coyote with mange. The kraken was actually an undiscovered species of squid, which was first confirmed to be real in 1857. The now named and real animal known as the giant squid shocker, I know, could grow up to 13 meters long. This might not be as large as Sailors has described back then, but it's still nothing to scoff at, since it's big enough to fend off its main predator, the sperm whale. With all that said, it's pretty easy to make the connection between the original design and the Kraken. Visually, I kept it mostly the same, except I added another pair of legs, because having two pairs really looked awkward with a giant head. For powers, it can stretch out its limbs to reach enemies easily and whip them with its sharp claws. It can also whip its head at enemies the same way fictional characters can hurl anchors at their opponents. Since it's a squid, it can breathe underwater and swim just fine, but it can still breathe air and stay on land as much as it wants, unlike Ripjaws. One last detail to connect it more to the Kraken is that it's around 13 feet tall without stretching any of its limbs, which is slightly taller than Humongosaur is in his base size. And finally, I present to you Tentakill. And there you have it, 3 more alien designs from my childhood and a slightly improved art style. My next video recreating my old aliens would probably be more like the first 2 videos, but if you enjoyed this format more, please let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more of my content, and most importantly, happy Halloween.